Hey, this is Andrew Brown, and we are taking a look at Database Migration Service, also known as DMS, which allows you to quickly and securely migrate one database to another. DMS can be used to migrate your on-premise database to AWS. So here's a diagram where you have your source database that goes to the source endpoint, which will go to a replication task or a migration task, which has the compute around it for replication instance, to the target endpoint to the target database. There are different flavors of DMS. So there's the serverless version where you don't have the replication instance. It's just, well, there's compute, but you just don't see it. And there's a third kind. We'll talk about that in the next slide. There's something that I really wanted to point out that I was confused about. I did not realize these were two separate things. But there's the AWS schema conversion, and then there's the AWS schema conversion tool. So the first one is something that happens automatically. And basically, when you map one database to another, it has this very simple rules that you can utilize to do that. Whereas the AWS schema conversion tool is a downloadable desktop app for more complex use cases when you're, let's say, migrating data from a data warehouse. There's a lot of possible sources here. I'm just going to quickly click through them. I'm not going to say them out loud here as you can see them. We have a lot of possible targets. So you can see there's a lot of variety here. But based on how you do your migration, there might be some limitations in terms of what you can utilize. But you can see there's a lot of stuff here. Each migration path requires a bit of research since not all combinations of sources and targets are possible. So everything requires some investigation. Let's talk about the migration methods, as there are three that are possible. We have homogeneous data migration, which they don't show that in the console as such. It's called, I think, migration tasks or something else. But the idea here is that you migrate data with native database tools, so using pgdump or pgrestore, whatever those migration tools utilize. I would imagine this is probably limited to very specific relational databases like MySQL, Postgres, MariaDB. You create a migration project. That's what it's called, migration project in DMS. And it will perform the migration using a serverless compute, uses a pay-as-you-go model. Then you have instance replication. This is the original one. This is the one that I will do in the lab because it's just super reliable, super fast. But this is where you provision an instance with a chosen instance type to perform the replication between databases. Then you have a serverless one called serverless replication, also known as DMS serverless. And yeah, I guess it's serverless, and homogeneous data migration is serverless, but basically serverless replication is the serverless version of instance replication, where you have a serverless offering as you pay as you go. It does not have public IPs. You must use a VPC endpoint to access specific services. It has limited selection of possible source and targets. It doesn't support views with selections and transformation rules. So it is more limited, but the idea is that it's supposed to be easier to use than instance replication. But honestly, I found instance replication easier to use still. And the larger the type, the faster your instance replication will go. So when you do this, utilize the service, even for the small databases, do not choose a small size or you'll be waiting forever. It's not worth it. Okay, or just watch the video and see how I do it because this one can really be a time sink. And I just want to save you some time, okay? There are more functionality to DMS. They have additional things on there. If I feel like covering them, I'll cover them in separate slides. But for the exams, they don't really get that deep into DMS depending on which exam you're taking. Okay, so there you go.